All righty. Hey, first and foremost, I want to open up again by my condolences to the Jim Hannafin family. You know, Hanny was a legendary coach, coached here, and had a tremendous coaching career. And a lot of us in the coaching community know him, but I had the opportunity to personally know Coach Hannafin. So again, just wanted to send condolences to his family. I also wanted to say that I know today is a tough day for Washington football fans, as it is the anniversary of the passing of the late Sean Taylor. I never had the opportunity to coach Sean, but I did meet him. I did get to know him a little bit, and I admired his game from afar. He was one of those generational players, one of those guys that come once in a lifetime, and you know, he meant a lot to this organization. And unfortunately, he was taken from us way too soon. So we just want to continue to send prayers to the Taylor family today. Okay. So with that, I'll be happy to open them up.
Hey, Ron, with Antonio Gibson, where have you seen the biggest growth? And I ask that because it seems like even on those short runs, he's a lot more consistent. Where have you seen the biggest growth in that area, and why is he more consistent there?
Well, I think the biggest thing with Antonio right now is we're seeing growth in many places. And a lot of it's just because he hasn't played the position very long. You know, again, we talked about drafting him and the things that we saw when we scouted him. You know, we saw the potential, we saw his ability, you know, and I mentioned it all the time that one of the really neat stats that he had was 1 in every 9 times he touched the ball, he scored. And those scores came from a multitude of positions, whether he was at running back, whether he was a slot running routes, whether he was outside on the edges running routes, or whether he was coming in motion and getting a handoff. So he's got this skill set that really hasn't been developed. And as you watch him and you watch what Randy and Coach King have done with him, you know, you feel really good about that. And you know that especially with you know, the coaching he's gotten, he is starting to show the signs of development and growth that we've been looking for. You know, at first he was a little bit all over the place, and now you like you said, John, you start seeing certain elements of his game coming in to focus. You know, the short runs where it's pressing the hole a little bit longer and opening up and popping through, or it never opens up and you gain 2, 3, 4 yards, but you're getting what you can. Those are the things that you're looking for. Or he hits a hole or hits an area, and then all of a sudden you realize he's got to bounce it or cut it back. Those are things that he's continually learning the feel for, and that's where you see the growth.
And then how much does the run design play, and then even having a veteran quarterback play into all that? And I asked run design, just all the jet action, the fake reverses, how much does that play into what you can do with him and the run?
Well, you do those things because it's all part of the scheme. You know, the jet action is really to hold certain elements of the defense, and understanding why we do that is important because, you know, if you're a runner and you know that you're running the jet action for a specific reason, you know, to hold a specific defender, then there's an opportunity for a cutback or an opportunity to run by somebody. So that's all part of the design. It's you know, it's kind of like you know, it's kind of like routes. You know, you have a combination route for a reason. You run a high low so that the quarterback can read from a, you know, from the high to the low or the low to the high, depending on what the defender does.
Thank you.
All righty.
You've got a lot of young guys, obviously, and this was kind of their
Cut out there, Mike.
reacted. And can you hear me?
Yeah, can you start over?
Oh yeah. You've got a lot of young guys, and this was their first time at a, you know, national TV Thanksgiving game. Were you looking for how they would embrace that moment?
Yes, because you do always get a little bit concerned if it's a big stage or not. Thursdays on Thanksgiving is about as big a stage as it gets, and it was good to see our guys handle it. I thought they handled it well. I thought they played well. You know, kept us going, gave us an opportunity, and then we took advantage of it. And that's one of the things that's really cool about, you know, how our team handled it. The stage didn't seem to be too big. You know, I do know next week's going to be a little bit different. It's a different kind of stage, but it's a different kind of opponent as well. And we'll see how we handle that. But I do like the fact that our young guys have played a lot, as I've said, because, you know, guys that are in their first, second, third year playing as much as they have been, it makes things not that big. You know, where if you had a guy, all he did was sitting behind and not getting a chance to get out there on the field, when he finally does get his chance, it might be too big. And I think that's the thing that everybody has to understand. First, second, and third year players become second, third, and fourth year players. And that's the plus about guys that are playing right now.
Hey, Ron, real quick. I'm just wondering if the Rivera family is aware that Little Giants has just a 36% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and if you'd like to have any comment on that.
Yeah, I think that's unfair. I'd like to see a higher rating for that. It is truly one of my favorite movies, especially as a dad.
Thank you. All right. Aside from maybe Antonio, are you seeing any other players have those aha moments that you referenced a couple weeks ago?
Well, they've come at different times for a lot of guys. The guy that has really truly intrigued me has been Logan Thomas, because as we went through training camp and we got near the end of it, he made a comment to me about oh, that's why we do these things. And it was just, he said it real quick in passing. And I thought to myself, oh, he gets it. And all he's done is just continue to get better and better and better. And it's been exciting to watch his growth as a tight end in our system. That's really been cool to watch, and again, Cameron Curl is another young guy that when you watch him, you get excited about who he potentially can be. So those are the things that are fun as a coach, is that you see guys experiencing those moments of aha or growth that, hey, I get it, or man, I could play, I could do these things.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron, to go back to the running backs, the first 6 weeks of the year, you guys really weren't using a lot of two-back sets in terms of snap percentage over the course of a game. But since the first Dallas meeting, you guys have really been using it a lot more. And yesterday matched season high in usage for that set. What changed? I know sometimes it can be about the game plan, but what sort of changed at that point in the season to get to have you guys kind of go in that direction?
Well, I think a lot of it is just the fact that we're learning our players and learning how to use our players and learning what better combinations to put those guys in terms of personnel groupings. I mean, that's the truth of the matter, man. I mean, even though, we got a lot of young players, a lot of new players, we're a new staff and we're learning our guys. And so as we go along, certain things are going to tell us, hey, we got to do a little bit more of this, or hey, we got to do a lot of that, cut back on this. So I think that's a big part of what's happened is as we've gone along, offensively, defensively, special teams, as we learn our players and we see how they fit into the big scheme for us, we're gonna use these guys to the best of our ability, the best of their abilities, to be honest.
Thank you.
Ron, what was the team's reaction to some of the trick plays you did yesterday, and how important it is to have those things in practice to kind of keep morale and keep things light?
Those are big. They really are, and it does help with the morale in terms of keeping things light. When we practice them and do them, or we practice that our opponent may do them to us, and it's one of the things that my hats off to Jack and the defensive staff, because Jack talked about it all week. Nate talks about it constantly as well. So when your coordinators are in tune to what potentially could happen and you practice those things, those are big. And so kudos to the coaches for working on them all week, but also for the players for getting it and understanding those situations and circumstances can arise.
Hey, Ron, do you think the team has found its identity, and what is that identity?
No, we haven't. I know a lot of people talk about, well, what's your identity? Well, we're learning. We're still learning us. And as we continue to go through this, we'll figure it out. One thing I do like about what our guys have shown, especially as of late, is that we're resilient. We have guys that can handle a bad first half and then bounce back. We've shown that. We've done that. I do like that in our guys, but I'd much rather not have to take a few punches before we realize, let's go, let's start fighting. I like to start from the beginning, but it does show the toughness and the resilience that our guys do have.
You said the team still needs to figure it out. How do you know when the team has found their identity as a coach?
Well, I think when you can take a game from the very, very beginning to the very, very end, and that becomes commonplace. I've been part of teams where, from the opening kickoff to the final whistle, just dominate. And that's what I'd like to see us do. I'd like to see us continue to work that way, learn and understand and develop that, and then get after people.
Thank you, Ron.
All righty.
Hey, Ron, you've had a tough year. I mean, it's been a tough year as a coach, tough year as a person. How much fun was going to Dallas and beating up the Cowboys on national television on Thanksgiving?
It was fun. It really was. It's a lot of fun. I mean, that's what you work for, is to be able to play that way and have a game go that way. But what's really cool was to watch the energy level in the locker room after the game, and really watch the guys, mingle amongst each other while they were celebrating. I mean, that was really cool. For the first hour and a half on the flight home, the guys were pretty ruckus in the back, having a good time, and they were reliving the game and talking about it. I made a little walk just to kind of see everybody. And then when I came back a little bit later, they were all asleep. They were pretty wore out, but it was really cool. And believe me, that's very gratifying is to see the guys after they earned it. I mean, they deserved it. And so it's been good to see those guys celebrating the way they did.
You took a fair amount of heat when you talked about the division earlier in the year.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's late November and you're in first place. Do you feel any level of vindication?
I'll be honest, I really didn't think about it until you just brought it up, JP. So, I mean, the situation circumstances are what they are. The only way I'll have vindication is the first weekend in January, and we're in first place. But for right now, we're going to work towards it. We got a tough schedule coming up. I know we got Pittsburgh coming. So we'll see how we handle those situations and see where we are in terms of our growth.
Thank you, Ron.
All righty.
Ron, what has allowed the offensive line to hold up so well, given all the changes they've dealt with?
Coaching. I firmly do believe that. I really do. First of all, we got the right kind of guys here. I really do like the guys that we have in that unit, but I do think what Coach Matsko and Coach Wharton do with our players is outstanding. We got the right kind of guys. I say that because their willingness to do the extra things that's asked of them. Their mental toughness to go through the tough work that Coach Matsko and Coach Wharton demand of these guys. That I think is huge. And I will say the leadership on that group between Brandon Scherf and Morgan Moses, and Chase Roulier, those three guys, they're veteran guys. They've been here a while. They've grasped what we're teaching, or they've bought into what we're doing, and they're helping to lead that group. I think that's been outstanding. I really do, and kudos to them as a unit.
And as you've had to dig deep in the roster to account for injuries at various spots, have you found depth at other positions that maybe you didn't otherwise think you had?
We have, and safety is another one. It showed yesterday when Jeremy Reeves got his opportunity. I mean, here's a young man that had a really good training camp that deserved the opportunity. And again, it also goes back to we talk about position flex. When a guy can play. And the offensive line is a perfect unit to talk about. When a guy can play tackle and guard, or guard and tackle, or tackle and center, or guard and center, or guard, tackle, and center, that's a pretty special backup who's going to have a chance to help you in a crunch and in a situation. And when you look at the guys that got opportunities yesterday, at the end of the game, you sit there and go, wow. I mean, we've done some pretty good things to be able to do that, especially with our depth. And so that's exciting. And that's part of the growth that we're looking for, is that we have the right kind of players here that give us the right kind of depth, that have position flex, that can go in and play, strong safety or free safety or guard or tackle, or a Sam or a Mike or a Will linebacker. That's what we're working for.
Hey, Ron, all four of your wins have kind of been pretty different in terms of just the style of which, you came back against Philly, you had to grind one out against Cincinnati, kind of controlled Dallas and put your foot on the gas yesterday. Just how important is it to have that versatility in winning games, and how important is that for a young group?
It's very important because, again, we talked about learning how to. In several of our losses, we had opportunities to learn how to, and we didn't. So that's probably one of the things that we're still trying to grind out is the how to in those really, really close ones. We did grind one out against Cincinnati, but we missed opportunities against Detroit. We missed opportunities twice against the Giants. We had opportunities where things were going our way against Cleveland and early on against Arizona. Just you look at those things and you go back and this is something I learned from John Madden is, as you look at each game, look at what could have been done differently. Look at how you could have handled situations better. How did you mess that situation up? And so it's so when I go back as the head coach and look at each game, like looking at the game today, so far this morning, there's a couple of things I felt we could have done earlier in the first quarter that might have helped us to kind of saddle up on this game a little sooner. But those are things that I'll keep in my mind for another game. And I did that with both Giant games and looked at them and said, gosh, this really truly was what got us. What could we have done better here? So, learning how to and having examples like you're pointing out, the 4 wins are all different. The losses are all different. And in each one of them, there are things that we could have done better as coaches. There are some things that we could have handled better as players. And those are the things that hopefully we learn from these experiences so that we don't make the same mistake and repeat these things.
Sam?
Hey, Ron, I know you're in a different place as a coach, your team's in a different place, but I wonder if you've seen further parallels from the 2014 NFC South race that we're seeing right now.
There are parallels. I mean, there really are, and there's some differences. That was a more experienced team in 2014. In this group, this is a young group that doesn't know the difference yet, and sometimes that's a good thing. It really is. It's an exciting group of guys. There's a huge difference in terms of the quarterback position right now. We have a very veteran guy that manages things very well and is the kind of guy that that you can really turn to and see just how calm he typically is. It's an inexperienced group of guys that are growing right now. That's exciting. And we'll see. I mean, as I said earlier, we still have 5 games left. It is 5, right? We have 5 left to play. And it's a pretty tough stretch when you look at the 5 that we've got left to play.
And for you, you've been a pretty successful coach in December. I wonder, what do you attribute that to?
Growth. I think because our players get more and more experienced and learn more and more. But each season's different. Each season has its own personality, and we'll see how this happens. And I mean it. This is going to be a heck of a stretch when you look at who we've got left in terms of Pittsburgh and Seattle and San Francisco and Carolina, who's playing better and better football. San Francisco, who's getting healthier. I mean, these are going to be 5 tough games.
We got time for 3 more. We'll do Russell, Rhiannon, and Les.
Hey, Ron. Good morning. You've talked so much about a young team learning how to win, and obviously now you've won 2 in a row, and I know you didn't have a lot of time in between games. How do you teach, or how do you cultivate learning how to deal with prosperity, meaning a winning streak, not getting too big on yourself, not getting too lackadaisical in practice, showing up with the same focus? Is that a hard thing based on your experience with a young team to teach?
Well, that was one of the things that that we had a lot of success with in Carolina, was that we were able to maintain our focus. Like a little saying that I'll tell the guys, and I've been telling the guys, that we see many things, but we only really remember what we focus on. So let's focus on what's important. Okay. Our tendency is to take things that are interesting and make them important. Well, the thing that we have to do is focus really on what is important, and that is we have a heck of a matchup coming up against Pittsburgh pretty soon. We'll start focusing on that. I tell them, be careful, in prosperity, everybody's your friend. In tough times, where are your friends? So these are little detailed things that we'll talk about and we'll point out, and it's that good old saying too. And I know I got a million sayings, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. Is what have you done for me lately? It's about the now. So we'll focus in on the important things. Sometimes there are lessons you've got to learn. I was on a team that had an 8-game winning streak going pretty good. And we turned around and went to played New Orleans, got the crap kicked out of us. So, sometimes you have to understand just how important certain things are, certain elements of this game. It's not about your reputation. It's about your actions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, Ron.
Hi, Reese.
I asked Jeremy Reese what it meant to him, obviously, that you guys activated him to the active roster when there was opportunity to go out and get a guy like Eric Reed.
Right.
I'm just curious, when you see a guy that takes advantage of his opportunities in a situation where you guys could have, it is a business. I guess, what does it mean for you as a coach? I know that was part of what made you so loved in Carolina,
Right.
was you did give your players those kinds of opportunities.
Well, and again, to me, it was only fair because I first of all, I got a chance to learn who he was before we started training camp. So I knew this was the guy that last season got opportunities, took advantages of it, and performed well. Or at least that's what I learned about him. So then, as we went through training camp, I kept an eye on him, and he just did everything right. And unfortunately, we were only keeping 4 safeties, so we had to do what we did. But I watched the way he practiced. I see a lot of things, and he was a guy that I was pleased with because of his attitude, his effort. He his preparation. He did the right things, and so when it came down to it, I had an idea for Eric, and Eric wanted something else, which is fine. I respected that, but I also felt though that with Jeremy, I had to give him his opportunity because he earned it, and I'd have been a hypocrite if I didn't do that. I got tremendous amount of respect for who Eric is as a person and a football player, but I also had talked about earning it, and well, here's a kid who earned it. So that's why I did what I did, Ree. I just felt that I was obligated. I didn't want to be a hypocrite. I'm going to make mistakes as a coach and stuff like that, but I try to stay true to what I say.
Just quickly following up on that one, is you mentioning the attitude thing. We saw Dwayne yesterday when Alex he ran for the few yards, and he comes over, runs over, picks up Alex Smith. He's usually the first guy in the end zone, congratulating his teammates. Yep. Just in terms of the attitude stuff, I guess, can you kind of speak to that, like getting guys like to have the right kind of attitude on your team, especially like a guy like Dwayne?
Well, without a doubt. Dwayne has really grown in the last. I really do think in the last month in terms of the things that we talked about wanting to see him understand and get and build on. The young man's a talent. He's got an arm that's an NFL talent, and he's learning the rest of it. As I've said before, he hasn't played a lot of football. We do want to create opportunities for him to play football. Right now he's practicing well. He's meeting, he's understanding what it takes in the meetings, or at least I believe he is right now. I like what he's doing out there on the football field. You guys don't get to see it, but between him and Steven Montez, you see the 2 young quarterbacks mimicking, during the drills, during the periods, what Alec is doing. And so they're learning, and that's a huge plus. We talk about having guys with the right attitude. Look at the play Terry McLaurin made, to give us a chance. And that's all we wanted on defense, was a chance to stop them. And that's what they did. They forced the field goal. Look at what Peyton Barber did, sliding. Here's a guy that pops one and could have tried to get more and kept running and stuff like that. But he slid after the first down, knowing that the game was virtually over. Now all we had to do was kneel it out. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking for in our players, that they're selfless guys, they're unselfish, that they do what it takes to give us a chance. They do what's smart. That's important. And there's a lot more to it than just being, a great athlete that can run fast and jump high. You've got to be able to play the game smart, and play the game with the right intent.
Last
Thank you,
one.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron. It's always struck me that guys in your profession, they like consistency, and that you want the routine and things you can kind of predict a little bit. I'm wondering, just with all of going on with COVID, like the stuff with the Ravens going on right now, and just all these kinds of things that seem uncertain now, and even yourself going through it with cancer this year, has all that been very challenging for you as a coach because it's out
Yes.
of that norm?
Yes, I hate it. I really do. I hate the uncertainty. I hate the disruption in the consistency of our daily routines. I mean, I grew up on routines. My dad was in the military, so for the first 18 years of my life, everything was regimented, that way. Then I go to college, and for 4 years, everything's regimented that way. Then I get into the NFL, and for 9 years, everything was regimented. And so when things are disrupted, now you really truly see just how flexible you are, and how you can adapt and handle it. And so it's kind of interesting because on one hand, you have to handle those disruptions, and you try to handle them in a way that everybody thinks, okay, we got this. You know what I mean? But deep down inside, it just, in all honesty, excuse me for putting it this way, but it just pisses me off. I prefer the consistency, but I'm not going to make a big deal about it. Okay. If we go outside and it's raining and we can't get into our bubble, I'm not going to make a big deal about it, because guess what? That's ball. And on Sunday, it just might be raining. So we're going to have to get used to it, and so that's part of it. And we have to handle, and we have to adapt. And the sooner we adapt, the easier it's going to be going forward.